Hello. I'm new to Reddit, so apologies if this isn't the proper etiquette on here, but I told this story to a friend a few days ago and he insisted I post it here. Now, I don't normally talk to people about this. In fact, I only brought it up to my friend because we'd been drinking. But after reading some other stories here, I feel comfortable enough sharing my experience. I guess a heads up because it does get a little gory, but I'll try to spare too much detail. As stated, yeah, I relived the same day 3 times. Some backstory: I've worked retail most of my life. Most people hate retail, but I've always enjoyed it. While I've worked in big single stores on strips, I usually work in mall chain stores, which is where I was working when this happened. It was maybe 5 years ago. I was 18, this was my first ever retail job, but I'd been working there for about 6 months. I woke up to a phone call, around 9:30 a.m., from my manager asking me to come into work even though it was my day off, because a coworker was a no-show. The state I was living in at the time has this thing called tax-free weekend, where there's no tax on merchandise, basically saving 10% on top of any ongoing sales, so we get really busy during this time. I told her to give me a bit to get ready, I'd be there in about an hour. I show up at 10:15 and clock in, my manager thanking me for coming in at short notice, blah blah blah. The day goes on as usual. In the afternoon, I wanna say around 2 p.m., my manager goes into the back room to pull something out of shipment. Very normal thing to do working here. Our back room is about 2 stories tall and with a cement floor. We have big ladders to help reach the top shelves. I always liked sitting on the top step. I'm pretty short, so being that high up was always fun. Also, for anyone who's worked in retail before, you probably can imagine how cluttered a stock room can get, especially during busy times of the year. So we had a few boxes on the floor and on the shelves, some with merch, some just full of extra shirt hangers and wall hooks. Well, not even 5 minutes after going into the back room, there's a loud crash. Me and my other coworker run into the back to see if everything's okay, and we're staring at my manager laying on the floor with ladder on top of her and her skull split open. And again, I'm sorry if there's like any rules against gore on this subreddit, so I don't want to go into too much detail, but it's an imagine that sticks with me to this day. Just staring at her, the pool of blood around her head getting bigger every second. From the looks of it, I can only guess she was trying to grab a box off one of the shelves and lost her footing on the ladder so it fell over. Her left leg seemed hooked in one of the steps, and her body swung underneath her and the ladder fell so she landed back of her head first into the cement flooring. My coworker straight up screamed and I ran to the bathroom and started vomiting. Seeing that was too much. Even now, I'm shaking remembering everything. I realized mid-barf that our store was still full of customers. I quickly went out front, very pale and probably looking disgustingly sick, and told everyone they needed to leave. I apologized for any inconvenience, but I think they could tell something was very wrong. We called 911. The mall I worked at was going through a bad spot of people being jumped in the parking lot, so there were already real police, not mall cops, on the scene. My coworker's still shaking and crying, I'm just a complete ghost. I've never really gone into panic mode when crap hits the fan, but I was definitely feeling shocked and very, very sick. After a quick questioning, the police could tell we were both in no condition to speak. By the time the ambulance had arrived, we had both already left. They wouldn't tell us if she was going to make it, but looking at her, the way she fell, the split in her skull, I already knew she was dead. I went home. I was still living with my parents at the time. My dad was sitting on the couch watching TV. He asked why I was home early and immediately saw how I looked. He turned off the TV, asked me if I was okay, what was wrong, and I just started puking again, right on the floor. He ran over to me, I fell to my knees vomiting and crying, trying to explain what happened, choking on my words. I started getting lightheaded, probably due to the shock and the loss of bodily fluids, then I just blacked out. I woke up in my bed to a phone call around 9:30 a.m. I felt completely fine in comparison to the day before, but waking up to my phone ringing did kind of freak me out. Then I saw it was my manager's phone number calling me. My eyes bugged out and I started sweating, and I answered the phone in a pretty shaky voice. To my complete surprise, my manager was on the other end of the phone. As perky as usual, asking me if I could come in to cover for a coworker who was a no-show. I could barely speak. My voice started cracking. I told her yes, followed by a, "So, are you okay? After yesterday?" She sounded confused and asked what I was talking about, saying she was fine. I couldn't really find the right words to explain what had happened, so I told her never mind and that I'd come in about an hour. I got off the phone and just sat in my bed for a while. Now, side note, I'm a vivid dreamer. I've even had lucid dreams occasionally without using those training guides some people on the internet have made. It comes very naturally to me. I can admit, I've had very realistic dreams. But this was not a dream. There is no way in hell it was a dream. I remember it all so clearly. So even though I managed to convince myself it was all just a horrible, horrible dream, I knew in the back of my mind and the pit of my freaking soul that it freaking happened. I come into work, 10:15. My manager is at the register. She waves at me and thanks me for coming in at short notice. I tell her it's no problem and then quietly ask her if she's sure she's okay. Now she gets a really concerned look on her face and saying, "I'm fine. Why are you so worried? Are you feeling alright? I know I need the extra help, but you didn't have to come in if you weren't feeling well." I realized I may have been freaking her out a bit, so I laugh it off and tell her it's no big deal, I just had a really freaky dream about you. She laughs and shrugs it off. We continue working. I'm really on edge throughout the day, but we were so busy I kind of had to force all the nonsense to the back of my mind for now. Again, afternoon rolls around. I'm helping a customer at the dressing room when I get this sudden sense of déjà vu mixed with impending doom. I call out to my coworker and ask where our manager went, to which they tell me she went to the back to get some shipment. My heart stops. I run into the back room and open the door just as I hear that loud crash again. This time, I saw her head slam against the cement floor. I went ghost again, standing in the doorway. Soon enough my coworker ran up behind me saying, what happened, until they saw it themselves. Immediately, they start screaming again. Almost robotic, I go out front, ask the customers to leave. We call the cops, only this time I leave before they show up. My mind was simultaneously completely blank and running on overdrive trying to figure out just what the heck was happening. I go home, my dad on the couch watching TV. Realizing I'm upset, asking what was wrong. I tell him my manager is dead. I go to the liquor cabinet. I was 18, so a minor where I live. My dad almost stopped me but decided not to, knowing something was very wrong. I just grab a bottle of whiskey and go up to my room. I chug that crap, I go numb, I pass out. I wake up around 9:30 to a phone call from my manager. After drinking a nearly full bottle of whiskey, I'm surprised to feel no hangover. I answer my phone and without my manager even speaking I say, "I'll come in, give me a bit to get ready." I hang up, get dressed, show up 10:15. She stares at me, very confused. "Glad you could be here, but the hell was that on the phone?" I say, "Don't worry about it." Go about my work day, as per usual, keeping a close eye on my manager. Around 2 p.m., I see her begin walking to the back room. I bolt to her and ask her what she needs. "Oh, just some of the wall hooks." I offer to get them for her. She tells me it's okay, she can do it herself, but to be honest I practically pushed her out of the way to get to the ladder before her. I'm trying really hard to act natural, but I was worried about two things. One, I've watched time travel movies, reality skipping and whatnot. Usually the person who dies just ends up dying in a different way if you prevent their death. 2. Okay, what if she doesn't die, but what if I do? I start climbing the ladder, really worried I'm climbing to my death. But I grab the box of hooks easily. Tell my manager to watch out as I drop them to the floor, only to hear her say, "Oh, that was smart." Whenever I get a box, I carry it back down with me. The other manager always tells me I'm gonna hurt myself. She smiles, it's a joke. I just feel a shiver down my spine. I climb down the ladder, try to crack a smile, and finish my shift for the day. I get home, Dad's on the couch watching TV. He asks how work was, I say fine, but that I was really tired and was gonna take a nap. I go upstairs and get out changed. I get in bed and for a while just stare at my ceiling, hoping I don't ever have to deal with that crap ever again. I ended up waking up the next morning closer to 11, which is already a relief. I have a text from my manager, thanking me for my help yesterday and asking if I'm feeling better because I was apparently looking a bit pale and acting kind of tired. I just tell her I'm fine. And that was pretty much it. Hard to believe probably, and I'm not telling you have to believe me, because if someone tried to tell me something like this happened to them I'd probably think they had a very active imagination. But I'm convinced this was some kind of in-game mission that I could only pass if my manager survived.